Ramya, can you confirm? Ramya, Sanjita, somebody can confirm that the YouTube broadcast has started.
Yes, YouTube has
Yes.
started and we have recorded on.
Good morning, everybody. Greetings and welcome to this session where we are, having a small cohort as part of our innovation series, talk series, where many people expressed their interest in the need for guidance as far as their ideas shaping into actual maybe products or solutions were concerned. And we thought it'd be nice to bring in speakers who've actually experienced this journey and who have transformed an idea towards a solution. And hence, we have three wonderful speakers today. Before I get there, I think I'd like to also talk a little about how different entrepreneurs or different innovators who associated with Ethos Foundation or through the Sengobin grants or the Saath initiative or the Udita grants, how they transform their idea. For instance, if I was to talk of Siddhant Shah, who we are really proud of, who was given a small grant as part of the Sengobin grants program to experiment and make museums accessible to the visually impaired. And today he runs something called Access for All, which really has become his chosen career path or journey path. We have Joy Mondal, who I've known since his college days, who's also going to be part of today's session, who has received multiple grants. I think this is the third grant that he's received to experiment with an idea. And I think he has again charted his path very interestingly on different fronts. And he's someone I'd like to talk about. There have been many such stories, and our work is to nurture those budding ideas, helping them grow into something that creates a real impact. It's this belief that inspired our innovation series. We're grateful to Rainmatter Foundation for having supported our initiatives and being part of the series as well. This innovation series goes beyond just theory to explore how vision and creativity lead to real world impact. We are thrilled to present this talk again. I'd like to mention Rainmatter Foundation specifically and learn from pioneers in social, digital, and material innovation. These are the three verticals we've chosen today. There will be many more as we go along. And these individuals who we've chosen have navigated the paths with setbacks and breakthroughs to build a purpose-driven future. I'm happy to welcome Snehal is already here. Snehal Joshi, who will be speaking in the area of social innovation. Joy Mondal, who will be speaking in the area of digital technology. And Tejas Signal and Ethos also go way back, where I don't know if he really remembers. We'll have to talk when he joins the session on how I think our paths intersected when he was a student in college and then when he was experimenting and having an exhibition of sorts. And today here we are where he'll be one of our speakers in the space of material innovation. Through their stories and insights, all of us will understand how design drives change from solving real problems to scaling sustainable solutions. We will explore innovation by integrating social responsibility, stakeholder engagement, technology, and design to create more impactful and a sustainable world. I would now allow Ramya to take over the session.
Thank you, Geeta. Good morning, everyone. So this series is a guided mentorship where we will dive into how technology, sustainability, new materials, and community engagement shape innovation journeys. To enable real-time mentorship, participants are invited to jot down their questions and lead on a shared mentorship prompts. This document will remain live and visible to all. So throughout the session, you can go there and jot down your questions, or even if it is any kind of need that you have that needs to be addressed by the speakers. I request Priyanka to please paste the link to the mentorship prompt in the chat box. So with that, without further ado, let us invite the first speaker. Please join me in welcoming Snehal Joshi, co-founder and principal designer at Design Nonstop, a multidisciplinary design practice based in Nashik. With a rich artistic background, Snehal's journey began with a degree in architecture from Pune University, followed by a master's degree in product design from NID Ahmedabad. Early in her career, Snehal spent 3 years gaining invaluable industry experience, including a notable stint at Sameer, Mumbai, where she designed medical equipment. This work reflects her passion for using design to address the needs of the bottom of the pyramid and make healthcare more accessible to all. Her innovative work has been showcased at prestigious Design Idea Fair. After building a strong foundation, Snehal co-founded her own venture, Design Nonstop. She believes that aesthetics should be an inherent part of design with a specific affinity for folk and tribal art. She admires its simple, representational yet lively forms and applies the same principle to her own work, achieving simplicity through a deep understanding of core design fundamentals. Beyond her practice, Snehal is also a dedicated faculty member in design and architecture. She has also launched a fascinating initiative called Lakhi, an attempt to revive and preserve folk and tribal arts in their purest form. Please give a warm welcome to Snehal, who will be sharing her experience in the area of social innovation. Over to you, Snehal.
Thank you so much, Ramya, for a lovely introduction. I must really thank all the organizers, Ethos and Rain Matter equally, for actually introducing me to this platform. And it's a very interesting venture all of you have actually begun, and I am really happy to be part of this. I will share my presentation right here. Is my screen visible?
Yes,
Is the
it is.
presentation visible?
Yeah.
Yeah. So designing responsibly. Um, I myself believe that design isn't just about how things look. It's also about how they live, how they serve, and how they respect whom we often forget. So this is also a personal journey which I would like to share. Ramya has already introduced me. Just to share, I grew up in a house where colors, performances, crafts, everything was quite normal. My mother is a painter, my parents did theater, my aunt used to study architecture. So, choosing a field in creative faculty was actually just following the whisper in my family. But this turned into my voice when, during my thesis, with the weavers community while doing architecture, I came across work of Beena Rao. And she did not just revive ikat, she tapped into the indigenous farming techniques, sustainability in dyes, and reviving a culture. So that moment, I actually realized that design isn't only about an object, but it is about a possibility. And this is what led me to NID. From there on, I also found a friend who was like minded, and that led me to begin this journey called Design Nonstop. So, Rishi is my classmate since architecture, and both of us have also studied masters in product design. So, we strongly believe that design has to watch, it has to listen, and it has to respond. So, from here onwards, I will be taking you through three case studies. The first one is a small geometry shift, the second one is visual learning, and the third one is tribal branding, each with its own constraints and surprises, and a lot of lessons on the way as well. So, the first product, oils in the factory. So we've all seen this product. It's a very mundane product and probably existing since hundreds of years. So in heavy industry, jerry can is everywhere. But what they told us really surprised that behind every 30 liters of oil, nearly 1 liter is wasted. Residual oil spills, clinging films inside. So all of this actually amounts to a huge national resource. What we saw that factories need these oils in huge quantity, but the single-use portion is quite small, and this becomes quite a task. to take out small quantity of oil. As you can see, the tilting the can, holding it in an angle, controlling the flow, all of it becomes quite messy. The area becomes slippery, and a lot of oil is wasted. Also, we felt that there is no dignity to this job as well. While doing all of this, it's a lot of mess. So we wanted to bring elegance and dignity to this act of pouring oil. So what we did first was to bring control. We thought that a faucet is needed, which can control the flow of oil. And the second intervention is in the geometry of the can. So we took inspiration from the behavior of one of the workers. So what he was doing is he was just rolling up a paper to wedge it against the can and tilt it so that he can achieve better control. So it is important to note that when we use these natural instincts of people to define a product semantic, we usually guarantee success. So we created a protrusion on the surface so that the can be rested in a tilted position as well. So with this geometric change, also the challenge that was posed by Sanjay Tools, who was our client on this, was that he does not want to increase the cost of the can, and also he does not want to move away from the usual manufacturing process of the can. So we what we were dealing with is only the geometry of the can, which can help dispensing it easily. So with these two small changes, what we achieve was a stacking position, which is easy for transport, and there is a dispensing position, which when the can is tilted, it will become very easy for use. I'll just quickly show a testing video. So this was our first prototype, um, where we were testing how easily it can be used. So we measured that within the first test itself, the residue had gone from 1 liter to somewhere around 50 ml, which was quite a success to begin with. And then we fine tuned the form further. One sec, sorry. Yeah. So we fine tuned the form further to reduce this waste to near zero. So what we achieved here is a near zero waste, a leak-free storage. There was no order and absolutely no added cost when it comes to manufacturing. It is still manufactured using blow molding techniques. So the only investment is in the faucet and the new mold that one had to make. Our lesson here is it's a small geometry changed, but we respect the gestures of the user, and that is what brought about a big change. I'll move on to the next case study. This is regarding design for education. What we have seen that 55% of Indian school-going children cannot read and understand age-appropriated texts even by the age of 10 or 12. And what happens is, since parents need to be, the learning environment is not only to the school level, but even at homes, the learning environment really matters. So our partner in this project is an NGO called Belief, who is working towards building material for early childhood education, and their focus area lies in urban slums of Maharashtra. So there is an added challenge. So even if we want to have our parents involved in child's learning, the parents that we are talking about here are barely literate, or a lot of times they themselves are very early readers. So even if you give some kind of a manual or some kind of objectives to them, it is very difficult for them to become the educators. But what belief specializes is in the teaching pedagogy, and they came up with a lot of activities that parents can involve their children in uh, through small household activities and chores, and that is how the learning can happen. So, inclusivity was the biggest uh, challenge as well as the biggest tool that we have used over here. So, while making this product inclusive, we realized that a lot of these homes have never really seen books, also. So, when we are designing this book for them, we also saw to it that the people who they see in the book, they feel that they belong to their own community. So, if you see that we deliberately chose families who come from a below poverty line or a lower class itself. Especially the skin colors were also kept brown. So all of these came from observations. We actually went to the field along with members of belief. We saw how these people lived and what would become their own environments. So that is how we design the characters. And like I said earlier, since the parents themselves are early readers, this book had to be like a graphic novel. And it really was not an easy task, because while we take reading for granted, we also understand. I mean, even if we consider that they can't read, but we could actually see that visual vocabulary is also something that people lack. And the way people navigate through visuals is also very limited. Um, So this is how the pages of the book look like. And we also realize that it is a very stringent way in which people actually decode the sequencing of the visuals. They always go from top to bottom, and they always go from left to right. So even while putting some small dialogue boxes, you can see there are only a couple of them on the page. But even while doing them, we really had to deliberate on how do we sequence them, who says the sentence first, who understands it later, and that is how the whole understanding built. And again, early prototyping was very important here. So we used to design few pages and then take it to the parents to see how they understand and how does the picture communicate. So this is just to show how people use the book.
हा अजून एक ग चल.
So this became very easy for parents to understand. They were using this book quite efficiently. Um, from since last year, there are 800 books which are already distributed. There are 40 Anganwadi centers where parents have benefited from this, and parents are actually asking for more such material. And we are on our way to print the second book now. I will now take you through the third case study that I mentioned. This is very, very close to my heart because, like you saw in my introduction, also, it was mentioned that I have a lot of affinity towards tribal and folk form of painting. And this project precisely works towards the tribal communities. So, this project, I would not say that this is designing for this community, but this was a complete experience of designing with the community. Last year, we were introduced to our tribal welfare officer in Nashik, and we came across these products, which are excellent products, which come from tribal belts of Maharashtra. There are some forest produced, which the tribals forage from the deep forests, and there are some produce which they also do small terrace farmings within Maharashtra. So government has a lot of schemes for these communities to build livelihoods around these products, around farming, around foraging. But what happens, just the funding or government schemes are not enough. Even if they are implemented well, what happens is that these people or this community is not really able to find the right markets in urban areas. These products are excellent. A lot of awareness around organic product and natural product or natural farming is growing, wherein these products fit. So they are quite a solution to today's demands. But finding right markets and branding them well is something that is really lacking. So the welfare officer actually asked us that what and how could we go about this product, go about branding these products and giving them the value that they deserve. So we began working with the communities. We actually thought that if we were to build a brand, it should not remain alien from them. It should truly belong to them thoroughly. So, how do we do that? So, we started talking to them, we started understanding their culture. How do they uh, produce the farm produce and how do they forage? So, what we realized is was quite interesting that a lot of these products, especially the ones that are foraged from the forest, the tribals don't really pluck anything from the trees. Everything that they get is only picked from picked from around, because they strongly believe that the forests have an abundance for everyone's needs, and by everyone they mean the people, the animals, and the birds, all of them. So all of them depend on forests. So what they do is they have rituals where they restrict themselves to foraging only in the morning, or only in the certain time of the year, certain duration of the year. So that is how these products are really responsibly sourced. Um, we also thought that we should incorporate some bits of culture around these products while we do the branding. So these stories really became important. We saw people actually preserving seed banks. We saw people engaging in practices which we call organic or natural, which they know as traditional ones. So the first thing that we did was to design an identity. And to design this identity, we actually resorted to their own art forms. So, like I was suggesting, that the forests have abundance, but not for the greed, but for everyone's needs. So our brand identity also supports the same ethos. We felt that the tribal hands that bring us the produce are actually the extension of nature, and we must, like birds, only take as much as is needed. This was followed by packaging the product, and we were looking for what are the opportunities where we can explore and make a difference. So, the product like honey, I'm showcasing here. So, a product like honey, so we have something where we need to use imagery which is unique. We can use product stories. The form should have an extended use. Uh, Also, the form should be such that um, it actually depicts the value of the product also, and there needs to be an emotional connect that an urban customer feels about it. So this is the packaging that you would see. What we did was we used different forms of tribal arts to tell the stories of these tribes. Here we see use of Chitrakathi. So there are three art forms in Maharashtra called Chitrakathi, Gond art, and Varli art. So we have used all three of them to depict the products that come from respective regions. So this is where we see how women forage honey from the forests and how they're bottling it. We've also included small stories from tribal mythology around the product on the packaging. So this is how we created a differentiation. And throughout the process, we saw to it that at every stage these communities give us feedback on what we are doing, and whether they feel because a lot of times what happens as an urban designer, we end up appropriating their own culture or their own crafts in certain ways. So we did not want that to happen, and we wanted their voice to shine through. So the artworks also that you see are done by the tribal artists, and we have only acted as a facilitator on this project. So this was the entire project where I'm showcasing different kinds of products. So all the products that came from belts around Nasik, products like rice or varai, cashew, all of them shine through the Varli art. All the products that come from the belt where we share border with MP, we have a lot of Gond community. All these products, even the products have innovation in them, because we also found out that mahua as a product can be used in different ways. So traditionally we know mahua only for its liquor, but they are actually used as sweeteners. We can use them as raisins. They used the oil of mahua can be used um, on your skin as well as in cooking. So all this range of products were developed through this initiative. So you will see Gond art, you will see Chitrakathi, and you will see Varli art used across all the packages. These products then went into exhibitions and were really well received by people, and the demand since then is growing. This brand is only is less than a year old, and a very interesting shopping platform also has been developed. And as we did a lot of marketing exercises, we've also saw to it that we use their own crafts also as packaging while giving Diwali gifts. So you would see some bamboo baskets that were woven for these. This further extended what we thought, that this cannot simply remain only on product level. A lot of awareness further needs to be generated around the tribal culture. So this whole brand became about celebrating the tribal culture. So these are some snippets from the diaries and calendars that we designed for the year, where we brought out the language part of it as well. So on the left hand side, you will see all the tattoo forms and what do they mean. So it was very interesting when we met this lady whose hand we see in the photograph. She had made these tattoos on her hand in exchange of mahua produce. So these kind of barters also happen, which was a very interesting thing to see. On the left hand side, you would see that we have included the names of all names of Mahua in all languages spoken across Maharashtrian tribes. So this is how we actually felt that we need to touch every point where the interaction is, and how do we celebrate their culture. So with all of this, we actually got an opportunity to do the government office, um, which is also in Nasik. So this is what the tribal welfare office looks like now. And we have celebrated the whole brand there. We have done a showcase in their waiting area where people could see objects from the tribal culture, and some bit of information is also kept there. Again, the entire office is also clad with a lot of arts and craft forms from the tribes. Again, these paintings are also done by the tribal artists. And of course, appreciation is the biggest motivation. There came a lot of challenges while navigating through different kinds of funding, different kinds of allocation of funds, and how do we get things printed and how do we get things assembled. all of that was there, but everything becomes sweet when there is a lot of appreciation. So, to conclude the presentation, what I would say that this is the key learning that we have, that inclusion, people with for whom we are designing should become your partners. Empathy, so we need to sometimes get into the shoes of the people who are for whom we are designing and for whom we are supporting, and then the innovation or the creativity. If all of this balances together, we can bring about good social change. With the last project, I would like to add the Mahua value chain was something that we worked on extensively. And what we came to know from the people that their Mahua trees are heirlooms and they are handed over from generation to generation. The value of each mahua tree until last year was somewhere around 20,000 or so. That was that was what they could reap out of it. And today they are seeing that the same tree, the same produce, the value of the tree is going somewhere around a lakh. So this is kind of a five-fold increase in their income that we are seeing, and that is a huge game changer for the community as well. So this is where we found our satisfaction and success in the project as well. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for listening to me.
Thank you so much, Snehal. That was a very it's remarkable to see how you have channeled your creativity into designing, something as simple as a jerry can, making it efficient, to working with the community. That is such an inspiring thing to see. And I really hope that people who are listening to it gain some inspiration from this as well.
And I think also important to point out is how can it be financially sustainable also? Because without that, there is really no future for it. So I thought that's also really, yeah.
Yeah. So, so what we will be doing is towards the end, we will be having a panel where we will be taking the questions from the attendees. Yeah, thank you. So
Thanks.
a reminder to all attendees to please jot down your questions in the Google form. Priyanka, please copy it to the chat box. So I think we will, give you some time to probably write your questions down before we go to the next speaker. So so you don't forget your thought, process and what you want to ask.
Happy to see Joy is joined. Hi, Joy.
Yeah. So yeah.
Hi, good morning, ma'am. How are you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Wonderful.
Yeah, go ahead, Ramya.
Yeah, hello, hi.
Hello.
So yeah, let us move on to our next speaker who will be speaking to us in the area of digital innovation. I welcome Joy Mondal, head of Research Lab. As a design computation consultant, he has lent his expertise to nationally significant projects like Bharat Mandapam and Yashobhumi, a recognized thought leader. He's also a TEDx speaker who has presented at institutions like the University of Southern California, University of Sydney, and IIT Kharagpur. On the tech front, he has developed award-winning AI tools to combat design plagiarism and predict urban safety for women. During the COVID pandemic, he created a dynamic containment zone map of Kolkata that received over 1 million views. His work has been exhibited at various prestigious venues, including the Alliance Francaise in Delhi and the Academy of Fine Arts in Kolkata. I welcome you, Joy. So I think you can take it up from here now.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for the introduction.
I said a few good words about you, Joy, in the beginning. You missed that.
Thank you so much, ma'am. That's kind of you. Um,
Yep, screen's there. Can go
all
full
right,
screen.
then. Just let me know if you're able to see the full screen.
Yes.
Yes, we are.
Okay. All right, I'm using the presenter mode. I hope you're getting to see the entire screen, like the entire deck. All right, great. So I'm going to talk about the use of let's say web-hosted design solutions of various kinds, and I'm going to etch in various ideas that seem counterintuitive to most of us designers, but then that's basically how the process of developing something at scale works. And I'll also share some of the mistakes I've done in the process of learning these lessons. All right. So the first question is, when do we make something that is to be on the web? We make something that is to be on the web only and only when that thing or that application or whatever that information is to be seen at scale, let's say 1,000 times or more. If it is to be seen lesser than that, then we can completely rely on WhatsApp forwards, emails, etc., etc. Right? So the first thing to identify is that whatever idea you have, will that be at all used in scale, at least 1,000 people or more? If we talk about enterprise solutions, then of course the number 1,000 is also too less. It's 10,000, 1 lakh and above. All right. And how do we know that something will be used by a whole bunch of people, or something that will be seen or visited a lot of time? We know that by making something that basically people want. It's as simple as that. It could be lack of information that people have, which you're sharing with them. It could be a calculation, a feature, a design tool, a simulation tool, wherever there's a gap and people want solution or want information, if you make that, you'll get a lot of use. For example, in the introduction, it was mentioned that we made a COVID map of containment zones. At the time, Calcutta didn't have any interactive map of containment zones. The government used to publish PDF notes, right? So because people couldn't visualize how close or how far those places are, we made a map and it garnered a lot of views, over a million. So step one is always to sit back and basically get an idea of if your idea is required by people or will that be used. Now, a lot of heavyweights have actually gone wrong at this. I'll just quickly talk about a couple of examples. This is a very recent one, a handheld AI device with which you can basically use your voice to ask it to uh, clear doubts, answer questions, play music, send emails, etc., and etc. And they'd raised about $30 million from investors. But the thing is, uh, with such applications, all it takes is the next iteration of a phone or the next generation of a phone for this to be imbibed in the ecosystem, right? And all the phones, right from the top of the line costly ones to, let's say, the 10,000 rupees range of phones, all of them have AI native tools integrated in them right now, which renders this wonderfully crafted hardware, software amalgamation completely useless. So sometimes the timing is bad, and what seems promising does not remain promising in about a year's time. So this is another example which kind of borders in the scammy part of it. Uh, this company, Juicero, it's around 2015-16. They'd raised over $100 million in capital, and they've advertised it as the most unique juice grinding machine, which basically required you to buy their subscription of juice sachets, similar to us buying cartridges, ink cartridges for printers. Now, uh, somehow the design was so elegant and so nice and such a delta from what all we're used to. When you think of a juicer, it's bulky, it makes a lot of noise, etc., etc., right? So this was elegant, nice, very minimal. But here's the thing, few months down the line, one of the customers figured out that, you know what, if I buy the juice sachet, I can simply squeeze it by my hand to pour the juice in a cup or a mug or a glass. I don't need to buy that $400 juicer, right? So all that juicer was doing, apart from the mumbo jumbo of, having Bluetooth connectivity, etc., all it would do was squeeze the packet of juice into the glass or the container, right? So sometimes uh, you get a lot of traction. It may feel like people want to use it, but if there's a scammy story underneath it, sooner or later, it will be exposed. So if you have to be really systematic about figuring out what something people may want or may not want, I would suggest looking up Paul Graham's essays. He was one of the people who started Y Combinator. This has pearls of wisdom across his articles, and this phrase was actually made famous by him. Now, once you figure out or have a slight idea as to what works, what doesn't work, or what kind of stuff people would want, um, the first step isn't to go ahead and start designing it or to start making it, because I know as designers we get really excited about building stuff, about designing stuff, right? That's our instinct. We get joy out of the process. But to make a successful at scale web-based app or website or something of this sort, we have to curb this particular instinct of ours, and we need to speak to customers or speak to people who'd be using it. So one is the idea of validating the idea, and the other is to get into the nitty-gritties of what they would want and what they would not want. And we made a mistake in this regard. About a couple of years back, we spent a lot of time across one entire month to develop this AI algorithm, which could be used to um, basically take care of labor safety compliance. It could detect when a labor is wearing safety vest, when the labor is not wearing safety vest. And then we got the demo to a couple of developers around us. The feedback was that it's a wonderful tech, but there are not enough cameras in a site to be monitoring on 70%, forget 100%, to be monitoring even 70% of the area of wherever the construction is happening. There are floors. With newer floors, they don't automatically install CCTVs right at that moment. And people, or rather developers, were not willing to use drones to monitor compliance from time to time. So you basically have to read between the lines at certain cases. So in this case, the summary was that, we care about it, but then we don't care enough to deploy drones and stuff. So, I mean, cool tech, but then not going to use it. So come back with a different idea or come back with a different solution. So kind of got this out of the way. So later, we got another idea as to, we use building bylaws a lot, and getting the right answer from a whole bunch of bylaws. You have NBC, local bylaws, you work across the country, you deal with multiple bylaws. So it's very difficult to remember all of the stuff. It takes a lot of time to uh, gather information from it. That was our underlying thesis. But then, as I said, we didn't make anything at the time. We basically interviewed a whole bunch of architects. I design buildings. I know my experience, but then if you only take your experience, there's a hint of bias that can seep into the process. So we basically undertook a pretty medium scale customer study of around 20 employees at 20 different architectural practices. And we basically understood their idea on what amount of time it takes to research bylaws at the start of the project, what amount of time it takes to revise a drawing when, let's say, there's some sort of a miscalculation in bylaw reading. How frequent is that miscalculation? How frequently do they need to revise drawings because of compliance issues? And then there were intangible aspects of it, such as if in a client meeting, or if the client gets to know that as an architect, you have not, in a way, interpreted the bylaw compliance rules properly, then what happens? Do you face a loss of reputation, or is it kind of seen as a part of the process anyway, so on and so forth, right? So you basically quantify the tangibles as well as the intangibles, and then figure out if it is actually something that should be solved or not. And what at the end of the survey, we figured out that on an average per employee, 4 hours are spent on bylaw lookup and drawing revision and coordination related to bylaw. Per week, 4 hours are spent, which is kind of like a 5 to 6% range of an architect's work hours. So it's a sweet spot to basically target and develop. So in this regard, I would say that, it's better to look up market research methods, ethnography study methods, and qualitative survey methods to basically take feedback such as this. Otherwise, we'll end up losing a lot of time, like we did with the safety compliance example. Right. After that, step number 2 is that don't after validation, don't run towards a wonderfully polished version of your idea. It's always better to be scrappy at the start. Do not be a perfectionist. Just patch something together and then show it to the same people, maybe from whom you've taken feedback, or a new bunch of people, but then the same target group. And at this stage, iteration is your friend. Start with something really scrappy and basic, and then move on towards something really polished. So this was about the bylaw solution. This was our first UI. As you can see, we didn't invest much time in the development of UI. It's a basic text box on the left and the answer on the right, right? So whatever happened in the backend, where we trained an AI on bylaw information, and then it could answer questions. And then we showed it to practices such as CP Kukreja, Edifice, ACOM, etc., to understand what kind of features do they need, what kind of variations do they need to basically make it better, what kind of UI do they need. Is the regular standard ChatGPT, Gemini UI good for them, wherein you ask a question and then you linearly get answers, so on and so forth. And this isn't true just for web-based applications. Even for wonderful and legendary product designs, that is actually the case. I mean, on the right-hand side, you have the first generation of iPod, and on the left-hand side, you have the first prototype of that first generation. As you can see, it's rather scrappy. Doesn't even have the right kind of font used, just a printout pasted saying this is up, this is down, this is left, this is right, right? So from your first prototype, which should take as less amount of time as possible, to the end, you've got to quickly iterate and then make a lot of versions. Right, and the same thing happens. You make a version, you show it to your potential users, you take their feedback, and you iterate. So iteration becomes your friend, and you repeat this, you keep repeating this. So the same thing happens. You improve, you repeat, you ask questions, you repeat, you ask questions. Initially, the feedback you take would be from one-on-one connections with regard to people you directly contacted for reviews. And eventually it becomes the form of customer feedback, understanding customer sentiments, so on and so forth. And we did that with the bylaw idea as well, where we got a lot of feedback that, you know what, I like that it's giving me the answer. However, I would also like to know the specific section or the specific clause from where it's fetching the answer, because then I can go back and then figure out what's happening. So we did that, and then in the process, we also got to know that, um, uh, it's nice that I can ask specific questions and get answers, but can you make something which gives me the answers, or rather gives me the numbers of the entire project in one go? So we kind of, on the right-hand side is the screenshot of that. We made a project mode where if you make a project profile, you put in the area, etc., and etc., it will give you, let's say, all the values regarding fire and life safety from NBC. So what amount of sprinklers do you need, etc., and etc. All of those will be tabulated along with the reference clauses, right? And so this project mode application of summarizing everything in one go, we didn't have this idea when we started the process. Get this idea only when you take an incredible amount of feedback. Right, and we got this while making this another project. Let me just play this. Yeah, we made this website called Safe or Not, where when you upload a photograph of a neighborhood and you tell it if you're familiar with the area or not, it basically tells you how safe or unsafe you would feel in that part of area. And of course, at the same area, if you're uploading, or rather if you're experiencing it at nighttime, the kind of output or safety rating it would get would be different from daytime. And we used survey of at least 1 lakh data points of safety ratings of images to train our AI network. So it was backed by actual real Indian data. Now, I was talking about feedback and iteration, right? So the first version of this basically had the output as such. It gave a number between a scale of -100 to +100. For example, this image had a rating of +54, and the prediction was that it's safe. But here's the feedback we got, that, you know what, I don't want to look at numbers. If I'm actually using it, I'll probably either use it out of curiosity to see how my neighborhood is like, or if I'm actually in a moment of crisis, or if I'm actually making decisions as to which route to take, I'm faced with multiple options, then I need to decide fast. At that time, I do not need the cognitive load of, looking at numbers. So we basically brainstormed a lot as to where and how it should be addressed, the issue of numbers. And then sometimes solutions are simple things that people share every day. And we found the solution in using emojis or smileys, where red and frowning is unsafe, flat face is neutral, and smiling smiley is safe. And there's no language barrier in this. Almost everyone understands the colors, the emojis, etc. And then that's how you sort of get better at stuff. So what I would strongly recommend, if anyone is interested in this process of improving and repeating stuff, how to get feedback, etc., I would recommend reading a book called Build, written by Tony Fadell, who happens to be the person who headed the design of Hyper. And even when this happens, there are a lot of times when what you want to make may not be possible with readily available tech, and you'll have to kind of, in a way, figure out ways to bypass the blockages or the deficiencies in the tech present in front of us. For example, while developing the AI system for Safe or Not, which basically predicts how safe an area is or not, one can imagine that, the AI system needs to understand if that image or that neighborhood at that time is well lit, or if it is dark, which is basically a proxy for day or night. But then we spend a lot of time in trying to figure out how that could be incorporated in the algorithm. And unfortunately, at the time, we didn't have any classifier ready-made algorithm which could basically basically say this image is daytime, this image is nighttime. We didn't have that. We searched all over the internet for weeks and weeks. We couldn't figure out if there's an algorithm present, something that would help our cause. So we basically went back to the drawing board and figured out that there are many ways in which colors are represented digitally. We are mostly used to the RGB mode and the CMYK mode. And then there are other modes of representation as well, one of which is HSV mode, which distinguishes between hue, saturation, and value, out of which the third aspect, the V or value, became relevant to us. So value, when it's low, means that the pixel value is towards black. And when V or value is high, it means that the pixel value is towards whiteness. It's basically blackness and whiteness. So we basically stitched up a piece of code where we calculated the V value of all the pixels of a photograph, and then we calculated the median of those V values. And then we could, with a fair amount of accuracy, we could predict which image is dark and which image is well lit, which are, as I said, proxies for night and day. And as you can see from the output example, one it predicted to be dark, the other it predicted to be daytime. So sometimes we kind of have to make do with unconventional solutions. And even in the architectural industry, there's a very famous example of such a case where while designing the Guggenheim Museum, Frank Gehry ran into technical trouble. That is, at the time, architects didn't really use 3D software which were capable of, even modeling such complex shapes. Forget about rationalizing and making construction drawings. So what Frank Gehry did was he hired an engineer named Bob Smith from the aerospace industry. At the time, aerospace industry was using a tool called CATIA, which was capable of modeling complicated shapes. And so he basically went outside the realm of the industry, got someone else from another industry to basically start with a software which wasn't used by designers at the time. And this transition eventually led to the evolution of parametric systems, which then eventually led to the evolution of Grasshopper and Rhino, right? So sometimes to bypass blockages, you end up doing something which leads to other innovations or wide-scale adoption of that as a solution by your particular industry. So then comes the question that, how do we get, let's say, a web-based tech build? And I won't talk about the obvious ways in which you can do it. That is, you can reach out to someone who's good at it on LinkedIn or meet someone like that at a local events, stuff like that. Those are obvious ones, right? The best way, if you're serious about making something like this, the best way to go about is to first get a good customer feedback, because that de-risks the involvement of someone from the tech industry. Secondly, you have to give them equity of whatever solution you're proposing. And thirdly, the market size of the application needs to be large enough to be financially lucrative for the person or the people from the tech industry that you would want to collaborate with. In this case, work together, right? So equity gives them skin in the game, and large market size is basically a possibility of financial success. Now, just a reminder that market size isn't a vague thing. It's not a complicated thing. It's basically the number of potential customers multiplied by revenue per customer. And these are, let's say, statistical things. I won't get into the detail of these. You can basically look up terms such as TAM, Sam, and Som to understand how these things are decided. But just to give you an idea, let's say you're about to make a brick that has a lot of hemp as its constituent material. They were making it uh, green certified. In that case, your market size is not the market size of the entire green industry. Your market size is basically the number of buildings that are green rated multiplied by the average size of a brick contract. That's about it. That's the maximum market size, 100%. It's not the entire market size of green building industry, right? So we have to be really clinical with how these things get calculated. But then this is a topic for a different day. I won't get into that. So I'll just take the next 5 minutes. This is the last part of the presentation to basically give you an example of how we can get started with building simple demos. The first step is building a very basic scrappy demo, like I mentioned. And now with a lot of tools available to us, a whole bunch of things can be done just for free. We don't need to invest any money at all. And I'm going to demonstrate that right now. If you want, you can take a screenshot or a photograph of this. If you want to make simple end-to-end demos, you can use tools such as Lovable and Replit, but they come with a paid plan usually. It's not exuberantly costly. It's about, I think, 2,000 rupees a month. Then to make quick coding examples, single web pages, you can use Claude or ChatGPT. I prefer Claude. For ChatGPT like applications, such as you want to analyze images or you want to generate text based on questions, you can use Google's Gemini AI. And why I suggest this is because Gemini AI has a very neat free tier for any user. You don't need to be a student or a faculty member. Anyone can sign up for that. And then you can run experiments for free. For web page hosting, you don't need to go to BigRock or GoDaddy or those websites, buy server space, and then host your website through complicated interfaces. This particular website called PageDrop, you can go there and basically whichever file that is being made by Claude, you can drag and drop that and we'll give you a link that can be shared, right? So I'm going to demonstrate that. I'm going to demonstrate how we can combine Claude, Gemini AI, and PageDrop to basically make an end-to-end web page. So what are we going to do? We're going to basically make a single web page where I'm going to upload an image, and the image will be classified as either commercial area, residential area, highway, industrial area, green area, slum, market, or unclear, right? It could be a random, it could be a photo of a jeans, and it's not an urban area, so it can't be classified into them. So you always have to foolproof your options or your systems with an unclear or unknown option. So we're going to do this. So the web page will basically upload the image, or rather we will upload the image on the web page. In the backend, it will send the image to Gemini AI, which is, as I said, similar to ChatGPT. And then the AI will return the answer that, is this commercial, is this residential, is this highway, so on and so forth, right? Now, to make this, we need to basically write what do we want to make. That's all that we need to do. We need to be specific with regard to what we need to do. And this is the prompt that I'm going to use to demonstrate the process. As you can see, it's not excruciatingly long. Takes about a couple of minutes to write it. And then the way I write prompts, and a lot of people have different approaches. I first give an initial idea. In this case, it says, I want to use Gemini Pro API to guess what kind of area is in a photo. And then in the prompt, I say, what do I want to do? I've mentioned that I want a single HTML file. Step 1 is on the left, I want to drag and drop an image. Step 2 is send it to Gemini API and then ask, what kind of area this is. Step number 3 is on the right hand side, show the output. And step 4 is You also mentioned what kind of output do you want. So with AI integration, one always needs to give examples of what kind of output do you want, what kind of format do we want in our output. So I've just mentioned, the output should be this area is commercial or this area is residential. And at the end, I've mentioned what kind of visual style do I want. I've mentioned use minimal visual design, similar to the Apple ethos, keep all background color white, make the web page 100% white, use Roboto font, and I've also mentioned my API key that I got from Gemini. Now let's see what kind of output we end up getting. So I'm going to share my entire screen. Right. So as I was saying, Gemini has a free of charge free tier, which we can use to experiment. So basically you go to Gemini and then you scroll down and then you basically go and click on get a Gemini API key, and you basically keep that saved for future reference, which I've done with my API key. I'm not going to disclose it here. All right, so when we go to Claude, it's similar to ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity, whatever you're using. You basically need to copy paste the prompt over here. I have the prompt written with me, so I'm going to open that. It's the same prompt that I've discussed, okay? I'm going to copy paste it here, and I'm going to hit the run button. And that's that. In a minute or two, it would have written everything that needs to be written. All right, so we don't really need to say that, pause for a minute, or this is how the animation needs to be. Claude is really good at making those assumptions or bridging those gaps. What we need to be very particular about is what do we want to be done, what kind of output do we want, and the overall structure of the web page. And, on the left, you do this, on the right, you do this. So this is the kind of output we got, okay? And then from the right, we can basically download it as an HTML file. And I've already downloaded it. I'll just show you how it works. Secondly, I also need to mention that in Claude, you also have this option. When you type in your prompt, you have this option to upload an image. So if you have a simple basic, let's say UI made, then you can also upload that while also explaining it in words. So the output goes as close to what you visualized as possible. All right, so I've downloaded this web page that it had made, Gemini Area Classifier. And now I'm going to go to pagedrop.io. Right, I'm going to go to upload file, drag and drop this over here, and then click on let's go, accept. And now it has given me the link. So let me go to view page. It'll first give you a warning that, this expires in whatever number of days, which is fine. I mean, we're basically using a free version. So, right. So this is the interface simple. On the left, we upload our image. So let's say I use this image. So I didn't mention that, while it's analyzing, give the text analyzing image, it basically picks it up on its own. As I said, Claude is really good at, filling in the blanks by itself because it's trained by exposing it to a lot of really high quality coded examples from various repositories, okay? So, and I didn't even mention, that it should be able to handle the, let's say, next uploading of images. There's no other button, right? There's no upload button, but if you click on this, it intuitively goes back to how it was. So it's kind of, as I said, good at understanding how things work. So, and then you can play around with it. And then if there's an error that you see that needs to be made better, then you go back here and basically type that, you know, I'm seeing this particular error, and then please make it correct, and then it'll give you another version of it, and then you repeat the same process, right? So it remains the same, that these are the tools that one can use. And as I mentioned, it's making a prototype, making a simple web page is very, very easy. We did that in less than 10 minutes. All we need to do is structure our prompt properly. So let me just repeat. We need the initial idea, what to do in steps, and also talk about the structure of your web page. And then lastly, briefly talk about the visual style you want to use. And if you're using some AI tool with an API, then you mention your API key. So to end, I'm just going to say that the first step of making something web-based is to make, after talking with people, is to make a demo to get feedback. Making the demo is easier than ever. And actually, demo is English because we just typed stuff in English, less than half a page, and Claude spit out a perfectly working version, right? So I would conclude my presentation over here, and I look forward to your questions at the end of the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Joy. That step-by-step guide was actually, a very clear roadmap for us to start our journey. And I think, you have set a really good path, as a way forward. So I think, like you said, we will wait for the questions after the next speaker. So yeah, a reminder to all attendees to please jot down your questions in the live Google document. My colleague has already pasted it in the chat box. Let us move on to our third guest, who is working in the area of material innovation, Tejas Sidnal, founder of Carbon Craft Designs. Tejas Sidnal, an architect and innovator, holds a master's degree from the AA School of Architecture in London. He discovered during his research that the construction industry accounts for 39% of global carbon emissions, which inspired his company's innovative and sustainable approach towards creating an alternative building material called carbon tiles. The company's work, which has been exhibited at Alliance Francaise in Delhi, the Academy of Fine Arts in Kolkata, and Old GMC Palace in Goa, uses principles of local design and sustainable craft. I'd let Tejas talk about a little bit more about his company and what he does. Over to you, Tejas.
Thank you so much, Ramya, and the Ethos Foundation as well. I'll be very quick. So I want to use more time for interaction. I want to share less as a presentation, which is what I'd love for everyone to talk more and engage more. So I'll share a little bit about myself as an introduction, and then I'll share a very quick presentation just to get a visual sense of what we are overall building. I'm Tejas Sidnal. I'm an architect myself. So while I graduated as an architect, I was quite excited about biomimicry as a strategy, which is taking inspiration from nature to design. In search of that, I went for my master's in Architectural Association, School of Architecture. So that's where I studied emergent technologies and design. So that's where my technology background really came in. Now I wanted to practice that now that I've learned it. I went to China, I worked over there, and eventually realized it's not very different from what India is, but it's at least 20 years ahead of us in terms of technology and adoption and scale, basically. But I realized that that's what's going to come to India as well. And it sort of scared me a lot in a way of, if I'm excited about biomimicry and we want to build the way nature builds, how do we really build? With that very question, I came back to India, and when I came to India, we started then looking at how do you really make low carbon footprint based buildings, or how do you make carbon negative homes, or say commercial spaces, right? So with that, while I was practicing a little, I soon realized that you can't. To be able to make that, you need to have these base ingredients to be able to make that, right? Like imagine you all come from, I'm assuming, different parts of the world, of India as well. Then it means that you all enjoy a specific delicacy. In that way, I'll give you an example of a biryani. Like if you want to make a very specific biryani, you need those base ingredients to be able to make like that, right? Otherwise, you won't get that. So with that, what is the most basic element that we can really make? We started with the brick. We soon realized that to make a brick, it's extremely difficult from a lens of commercial. Then, because you put anything into it, it goes inside a wall. It's not even sealed. People would be like, why do we pay anything more for this? Which is when we realize that what will people pay for? They will pay for design was the first learning that we had back in 2016. Then we moved on to a facade, like jo dikhta hai, wo bikhta hai. We eventually started to make a facade which can capture the air pollutant and be made out of that. So 2016, 17 and 18, we did that. And then we learned that this is more a want-based product and not a need-based product. So 2019, we again pivoted into a tile, which has design, which is commercially viable at scale, and it is a need-based product as well. So 2020 is when we launched it out for pilots. We then worked with various brands for this, including Adidas, Royal Enfield, Tata, and lots of other brands as well. But we hit a ceiling again over here with scale. We were able to make a building material which is low carbon footprint. But how adoptable is this in a way of scale in terms of technology? How do we really scale this? Which is when I really shifted my career from being an architect to a material innovation company. So now Carbon Craft is a material innovation company, and I'll speak more about where we are from that. And we've moved a little bit to walls very specifically from floors as well. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, it is.
Awesome. Perfect. So with that, the larger vision of the company is really to make carbon negative homes and therefore carbon negative building materials itself at the first place. We want to decarbonize 1,000,000 walls. That's the vision that we are going with right now, where we can combine tech, craft, and design to build art and architecture based projects, basically. If you see the problem, the waste streams that we quarry about 35 billion tons of natural stones right now, which also then generates about a 1.3 billion tons of construction and demolition waste, which then is also responsible for 39% of the energy-related carbon emissions as well. Now, all of this eventually creates a lot of resources that we can use as well for us to utilize. But it creates these problems at the local level. That's the global level problem. At the local level, the architects and the interior designers, they want to use green certified carbon negative building materials, but it doesn't exist at scale, right? And for builders, we are looking at affordable, scalable solutions as well, because they can't sort of, everyone wants to sort of maximize their profits as well. Dealers want to sell it, but then it's not available at a low turnaround time. They have to import it all the way from outside and then be able to sell that as well. That doesn't work for a lot of projects as well. What happens to this waste right now? It goes into a landfill and then creates environmental contamination. What do? We prevent this from happening at the first place. We take this waste, we process this, and then we make any plain pattern or customizable wall cladding tiles right now. Bricks and tiles right now is what we are focusing on as such largely. We work with 15 types of raw materials, ranging from steel slag to C&D, the construction and demolition waste, quartz waste, quarry waste, red mud, lots of this waste coming from steel industry, aluminum industry, the construction industry. With that, our first wall cladding solution is really Diwar. How is it really made? It's a 4-stage proprietary process: collect, process, build, cure. We collect all of this raw materials from various parts. We process this at the facility itself based on what the processing is required for that raw material very specifically. We work with women artisans in Hubli in Karnataka right now. And we have our own mixed proportions. We use 96% recycled materials to chemically engineer the entire reaction of these tiles to make them stronger without firing. And then we have our own curing chamber that we work with, where we cure this at a certain pressure, temperature, and relative humidity to make any plain pattern customizable tiles. Largely, what is the main features, right? This is zero cement, zero firing. This is zero clay. It is 96% recycled materials to chemically engineer these tiles, the entire reaction to make these tiles stronger without firing itself in the first place. Zero cement, zero firing, zero clay, 96% recycled materials, right? Used for interior, exterior, available at affordable prices for people to use it as well. With that, available in various colors. So you're not restricted with the color of the soil. So it can look as good or more variations in terracotta, gone with various certifications, file 6 patterns on it. We're filing another 8 patterns in this calendar year itself. It's customizable, affordable, scalable, sustainable, looks like any other terracotta that you would want or any other color with that feature as well. So those are just some visualizations to understand where it is, where it can be applied and how it would look. We've also designed some various customized versions as well, where these 3 shapes eventually can allow us to make it look anything into the interior space as well. So it allows for a flexibility in design and color for people to use it as such in various spaces as well. With that, our values really are, we look at waste as an opportunity for us. We upcycle a large part of this. It's largely sustainable, interior and exterior as well, and socially inclusive, which is what is our value systems largely. We have various projects that we've done with AIDAs for their floors. This is the AIDA's logo as well, which then means that there is a certain amount of brand association that could be created as well with this. Now we are looking at various other projects that we are looking to build with builders as well with this. So largely looking to scale from there. I'll stop my presentation and so that we have more time for conversation largely. If there are any questions, happy to answer those as well as we go along. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Tejas. Thank you for giving us a glimpse into how your company works and how your innovation can lead to a healthy planet. And with that, I would like to now invite all the 3 speakers, to continue the interaction with the audience. The attendees have typed their questions in the mentorship prompt sheet. My colleague Sankirtana will direct the questions to you. I request Sankirtana to please take it over from here.
Thank you, Romeo. Thank you for that. And it was wonderful to listen to each one of our speakers today. It was really, really nice and exciting. All the case studies, all the learnings that you tried to explain to us was really, truly amazing. So we do have a lot of questions coming in under the mentorship document. So if any of our audience or participants would like to unmute and ask questions, we are open to that. Please feel free. It would be really nice for us to have a very interactive session. I'll just give about a minute for all of you all to respond. If any of you would like to unmute and ask, please feel free. So we do have a few questions from some of the participants who unfortunately couldn't attend today, and we've been getting a lot of DMs from them as well. So all of that is collated by the team. And okay, I will just start off with a few questions that we have, and meanwhile we can keep the interaction going.
Can you hear?
Yeah, Piyush, please go ahead. We can hear you.
Yeah, I was slightly late. I attended Tejas's presentation. A
Okay.
fantastic initiative, Tejas. Congratulations to you. Number one. To my surprise, congratulations for the second time, because yesterday evening I received your catalog from my client asking whether can we use this as an environmental project. We are doing an environmental house here in Aurangabad, and it has all clay blocks, and we have used brick dome instead of slab. And the flooring material that we were thinking was archi concrete. And I guess, is this similar to the mosaic tile that you are doing, or what is the exact thing? I just wanted to know the details, and how would it be priced? Because if you want to sell it on a large thing, the pricing has to be really negotiable, because nowadays vitrified tiles are coming in almost 30 rupees a square feet. So how do you cope up with that challenge? And how do we convert the clients to use these kinds of environmental materials, because they cannot be 5 times expensive, and I mean, then the purpose doesn't work for what we are striving. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Piyush. It's glad to know that the customers are reaching out to architects as well. So the ecosystem's really completing the circle here. To answer a couple of the points that you mentioned, one was regarding whether is it the same as Mosaic? Yes, it is. Two, the pricing. Yes, it's a huge mess right now with the pricing. It is expensive, unfortunately. And that is also because we don't have the capacity to be able to scale, which then means that we need about 4 to 6 crores only to set up the manufacturing unit. And we're not able to raise that much amount of money only for capital. We don't have the money. Government doesn't have, they don't give money
No
without
incentives, right?
collateral. Sorry?
No incentives, rather.
Yeah, so that doesn't exist as such. So investors are very scared about the idea that, okay, this is capex heavy, opex heavy, R&D heavy. So do we invest in this business right now, or shall we wait it out and see how they do another 2 years and then we invest as well? So we've been selling that at the price as an offering, which is still there, but we realize that we don't want to build for the elite. We want to build for the larger masses, which is when we started moving into a wall cladding tile, which is really affordable in its price point right now, going down to 75 rupees a square feet to about 150 rupees a square feet as well, which then means that each tile is about 15-20 bucks basically. So we're doing our best with what we can with the kind of technology that we are building as well. But please bear with us for the other pricings as well that we bring in.
I would just like to also understand, what are the adhesives that you propose? Do you have your own adhesives to use these styles for particularly wall cladding, or do we go with the standard Sika or Mape brands kinds of things? Number one. And number two, what is the I mean, have you tested the coefficient of thermal expansion and contraction? Because do we need to leave spacers, or these kinds of things also need to be advocated very well to the client before we indulged into just selling it? Because if it is lasting long, it should not create maintenance issues at a later date. A lot of times the tiles bulge over if they are not properly applicated, if you are not leaving those thermal expansion contraction spacers or sealants. Yeah.
Right. Two questions. You can use absolutely any adhesive as well. And second one, yes, we do recommend spacers as well to work with. Three, we have various certifications. Happy to share it across with you.
Great. Congratulations once again. Yeah.
So, Tejas, we do have a few more questions for you here. One goes this way. Do you look towards bringing in new discoveries of materials, upcycled, like GGPS, and other such similar things in your research?
Yeah, absolutely. We've been working with GGBS since a while now. It's been 3 years that we've been working with this base material as such. And that's constantly going on. We're constantly hiring as well for architects themselves, because we understand that architects are the best guys who understand the system so well, the entire ecosystem. So we're really hiring entrepreneurs in residence right now. So anyone who's looking for really testing out how this world works, please feel free to join this journey as well.
Hi Tejas, can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Hi, Kevin.
Yeah, so actually this question was asked by me because I recently discovered this GGPS material and how architects are using it. So my question is also like, if you are a material innovation company or organization, do you look out for other materials like GGPS? For me, it's like recently discovered, but do you look towards some different materials which are like byproduct of some industry, and do you plan to utilize that as well?
Yeah. GGBS, frankly, is there since the past 30 years.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just like how 3D printing exists since, like, the first 3D printed uh, This building was done about 60 years ago. So
Yeah.
it's the same thing. These raw materials exist. It's just how do you make it commercially viable for them to be used in a system? And like Piyush was talking about, right? Like have all the certifications and testing to make sure that it lasts long at a certain price again.
Yeah.
So yes, happy to work with various other raw materials. We've been testing, but again, it's about cost, durability, certification, safety. Lots of these parameters really put them together.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Tejas. Thank you, Kevin. Snehal, this question's for you. What participatory design methods can help innovate local communities in co-creating solutions and ensure long-term adoption?
Okay. So through our projects, also, like I said, that it begins right in the initial stage of the project. So even in the tribal project, even before we actually could design anything, the first thing that matters is to understand what the voice of the community is. So, like I said, that even if the government had a lot of initiatives, it still does, and that really helps funding these kind of projects. But setting that vision becomes quite important. And if that vision comes from the community, then everyone sets together. So, with a very open mind, one needs to go and interact with them, become a part of them, spend a little time with them for a while, and gain confidences. Because no matter how much we would try, we come from, um, in this case, we do come from a different background. Being a non-tribal, like I said, that it was a very dicey thing to appropriate their art onto something else, and that is something where we should not lose their voice. So constantly being in touch with them, and not having approval system, but still having them go through everything before we finalize the things was quite essential. So at every stage, we would make presentation to the representatives of the communities that this is what we've come up with. How do you feel about this? Uh, Even when we were doing the packaging, like I said, that we described the entire story of the product, and the idea of using the art which is relevant to the same area actually facilitated us, because they had seen the farming, they had seen the practices, and something very interesting came out of that. It was quite a learning for us also. So that is where I think every time we engage with a community, we need to start afresh and we need to get into the learning mode. And with that open mind, if we have discussions with them regularly, I think that helps the project in long run.
Yes, Neha, I totally agree with what you're saying. Also, an extension to whatever you have mentioned earlier, that I understand that it is important for one to, get into the community, understand them first, they understand their point of view, and later, think of anything that we curate. But then, have you, in your practice, encountered any major challenges, like, during this journey of yours, or it could be even during the initial phase? There will be a lot of resistance. There will be the community which is having a set of traditional, point of view, or it could be many other things. So could you please elaborate on that kind of, challenges as well?
Few challenges that we came across was kind of a language barrier. Um, so getting them to talk, because there is a divide, the way we dress up, the way we carry ourselves, we do look different from them, even if you don't want to behave one, but we do come from a different cultural background altogether.
Agreed.
So, I mean, smallest things like footwear, we used to try to take care that we don't dress up like them, but we at least become acceptable to them. So that was one thing which was a challenge. We did have to work on our language, because a lot of these tribal belts, at least in Maharashtrian tribal belts, we see that they are nearer to the cities, so they have adapted to the language at least. So having to speak Marathi was key. but we also had one more person in the team who was a tribal language expert. So that helped quite a lot. So while we were interviewing people, when we were sitting with them, it's very interesting if you find a confidence to get into somebody's house and you can enter into the kitchen, then I think the conversations start differently. So that was quite interesting. If you enter the kitchen, you have the food and you are curious about their food, you start talking from there, and then people do understand that you want to be the part of the family, or you become the team, and then it
Yes,
becomes quite easier to actually have them converse with you. So
totally.
yes,
I
so
can
I mean the
totally relate
demeanor
to
was
that.
quite important.
Yeah. Yes. So we do have some questions for Joy. Joy, if you could answer this for us, please. Um, what courses or skills would you recommend us to learn as students from the design background, having very less exposure in tech related things to bring innovative changes or come up with new platforms that will be really useful? Joy, you're
All
on
right,
mute. Yeah.
thank you for the question. There are two aspects to it. One is how do we make it, and the other is what do we make. The what do we make is actually more complicated than how do we make it, as is the case with most of the things. Uh, the how do we make it is actually pretty straightforward. All of these tools, Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, they have a whole bunch of tutorials in text form as well as video form on their website. So one can spend an hour at most. It takes an hour or two, half a day to get used to them. And they have such deep free tiers of usage that while you're experimenting, you won't need to end up paying things. Apart from that, of course, you can always check out Udemy or courses. But then I won't advise on spending money on going through those courses or really actually getting into streamlined set of lessons, because the best way to learn these things is figure out what you want to make, and then figure out the tutorials used to make it. It's as simple as that. In fact, you don't even need to type the prompt. You can just brainstorm with these tools, say that this is what I want to make. Why don't you write me a prompt which I can use to generate the book? You can also do that. So it's simple. Let's just start chatting with these tools once you figure out what you want to make, and just half a day's time, and you'll be able to make the kind of web page that I just demonstrated. Pretty simple and straightforward, to be honest.
Yes, we actually have seen it, very simple. It was presented very simply and, in a very doable manner for all of us. That was a very nice, motivation for all of us to experiment and start looking at new things, Joy. That was really nice. So, in continuation to the same, a similar question has come up too, where they are asking about how, if in case you approach communities or you have a project related to a larger set of group or a community, in case you have to implement a new idea or a vision, how do you enable them to use such tools? How do you bring them on board, or is there
Got it.
any
Got it. Okay.
you know
So the way in, uh, I would say that each and every community has a few local leaders or thought leaders, which to whom the entire community kind of looks up to. Now, it could be the local headmaster, it could be someone who's politically connected, it could be a bunch of people who, local youngsters who help people in times of crisis or take care of festivals. I mean, that depends on the kind of community we're talking about. And it's always easier to approach the entire community if you could take those few selected thought leaders into confidence. Then disseminating the information becomes much easier. So I would say that's how these things work properly. And of course, once you do that and you invite a whole bunch of people to take part in a larger conversation, it's always better to be prepared with tea, coffee, food, any kind of incentive that you can think of, right? In fact, even in formal engagements with communities, if you read Abhijit Banerjee's book on poor economics, you notice that even distributing free mosquito nets to protect people from malaria and dengue, that became better when half a kg or a kg of pulses or rice was given to the families for free. So you come take the free mosquito net, but then in return you also get pulse or rice and stuff like that. So first identify the leaders, and then once you take them into confidence, basically give some sort of incentive to the rest of the community as well. And it could be as simple as a cup of tea or something as heavy or as cost intensive as rice or pulses.
Agreed, Joy. I think that really helps. As mere as just conversations over tea can, end up in something really big and, become a huge project altogether too. I agree with that. So we do have some questions common for everyone. If Matthew, you're here, would like to unmute and ask the question, please go ahead. Or I would read out, or otherwise I'll read it out. Matthew, are you here?
I think Isaac Matthew will be known to everybody here. Tejas, you know him as well. Joy surely knows him.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's one to rake up a lot of
Okay.
questions. So, Isaac, are you here? Yeah, hi.
Can you see
Yeah,
me?
yeah.
It's been a long
Yes.
time. How are you?
Yeah. Hi, Geeta. Long time. After
Yes.
20 years.
Nice to have you here. Go ahead. Put them on the block.
The main problem in Indian architecture ecosystem is that our communication skills is very low. So how we understand what architecture is generationally changing. So that is the problem that a whole new set of students or people coming out in the field are facing. They don't know that architecture is like a startup. And to start up, you need, money. And who gives you that money is a question to get. And people generally some people, let's say, if you get married to another architect or an engineer, it becomes easy for you to start a practice. And then, or you have access to a college. Let's say college gives you free students who work for you, or if you have family funds, or if you have some kind of other, let's say, patron who blesses you. Unless you have all these things, to be a startup founder is close to impossible. Then there is an issue of how much can you take a failure? Like, let's say 3 years, 5 years, the cost of failure council does not imagine. Like, a lot of architecture practices fail because clients don't pay or people stop working. Like, the older you get, you need good amount of people to give you ideas. Like, you cannot always be, the guy, and as we have seen with all these AI tools, the main problem that happens is your processing skills. Like, if you don't know English well, your prompting skills are not going to be good. Or especially the tech lingo they use is very different from what is available in your common day usage. That is, the code is the new theory. Now, if you don't know existing philosophy of architecture, you are no way going to look at how you're going to use code. So these are the things that needs to be addressed. And how do practices addressed? And if you are successful, it is not because you have skills, but you have a certain set of resources that is available to you that others don't have. Is what I think.
Tejas, you want to take that? Because I know you've been through a whole lot of struggles at different points. You've tried various things and you've got where you have. So, and it's not as if you can at any point say you've completely arrived as well, right? Yeah. So if you want to take that, it'd be nice to hear from you.
No, thank you so much, Geeta and Isaac. I think this is it's more an existential question. I believe that we are all on a journey and it's always going to be like that. But to some extent, I agree to Isaac. But to some extent, I also feel that yes, we are limited by the resources. But I personally feel There are two parts to this. Upbringing also plays a role. Yes, of course. And the kind of resources that you have around it and all of that as well. But I personally feel that there are two parts to this. One is what is the kind of um, clarity we have about what we want to do or what we want to explore in our life as such. That's like the first part of things, like how much rigor is there in really finding that over and over again. And point number two is how big a role does the ecosystem play in that for that clarity that you had to be able to reach that as well. I feel the first part is really dependent on us and we can really drive it. The rigor that we have with what we want to do and how we want to do it and where we want to reach. I don't think in the world that we live in, it really depends on resources anymore. It's everything is available everywhere. Like I remember during our time, we was using Orkut, and then it went to Facebook, and then now it went to Instagram and whatnot, right? Like now it's going to be ChatGPT and all of that. So it's going to change over time. But I remember when I wanted to learn about biomimicry, I couldn't find anything online about this, which is why I went for my master's in the first place, because now it's become a fad that you have to do your master's in some way. Everything is available online. Why do you want to do a master's in that if you don't know what you want to do specifically? So that's, I think, is become a question as well. But on the other part, where we are struggling as well is how much of a role can ecosystem really play in this? So I'm sorry to take longer for this answer, but I just feel that we as architects need to come together as a ecosystem and start backing a lot of this as well. And we've been trying to put together an ecosystem to from the front end side, where is a demand and supply basically. Only if the demand increase, then the supply will come in. Otherwise, we have a lot of players, innovators really come together, but everyone's struggling with demand.
Also, isn't it the same story under various other disciplines as well? It's not really completely unique to architecture. I mean, although, yeah, it's harder maybe to an extent, but it's not necessarily architecture or design. It's kind of.
I would say.
Just to clarify, architecture is a regulated profession. Like, unlike a doctor or like a lawyer, other professionals doesn't have regulations.
So I think it also depends on what you mean by the startup, Isaac. I think you are referring to architectural practice as the startup.
No. Even like if you read through the minutes of the COA, minutes of COA, they very specifically say that architecture services in India is not defined. And because it is not defined, there is no value attribution to the product, the services that you're selling. Now, unless the council says you have a very specific service that you provide, and then you have a certain value that you can add to it, only then we can move forward as a profession. Otherwise, we will sit and keep doing these product design, website design. And if you understand, Korea, when he started, he was doing larger parliamentary buildings. We are selling tiles. That is how the value of the profession has dropped in a span of 40 years. Now, this value dropping has happened only because we don't have regulations. And
I think also, Isaac, I'm sorry, I beg seriously to differ there.
No. I mean,
it depends on what value is to us. And I think we should start valuing all kinds of roles within the profession for the value of the entire profession to go up. That's something I've been fighting for.
That is a services. That is happened right now.
No, I think we need to shift from believing that it's only that design and build kind of practice.
I'm not saying that. I'm not even saying that. I'm saying that the definition of architecture has changed in the last 40 years. That definition itself is a research project which I've looked into.
I'm glad it's changed to an extent, is what I would say.
Yeah, but then it has to have value, which is not given in the documentation. Like council does not give it. See, that is why we end up spending a lot more on
So
looking at.
that's true. Council gives it largely to design and build practices. I understand that. And I think that's where I think what Tejas said is we need to come together as an ecosystem
Exactly.
to be able to
I
build that.
totally agree
Right.
with that. That ecosystem needs to be built.
Yeah.
I mean, only then we can flourish. We can do bigger things. Scale happens only there. I mean, that is my observation from last 15 years.
Right.
I'll just take a minute and probably share. I think it's important for everyone to probably just from my perspective in that lens, why did we move into a material innovation space as well and leaving architecture and then moving into it is starting when we learned about the fact that if I want to build, I'm going to be polluting in some way or the other. Why do I really build was a question that started in my head. If you reference it back to the way we build as such, like we can have stack effect, we can have great ventilation, we can have great light and all of that, but the embodied carbon of the built material is there, is going to create those carbon emissions.
The very act of building starts with not being sustainable.
Yes, so in that lens, if you see Zaha or Frank Gehry, what they did was concrete was not there. It existed. It's just the way how it is being used to be able to make that. So starting from the base material itself and then moving into architecture. So really the vision for us is to make carbon negative homes. We will build homes probably in 10 years time or 15 years time. The first project that we build probably would be 15 years time from now. But really using all the base ingredients which we believe are true, the true cost and the true to its nature to be able to build as well. So it's just a journey that everyone would have on their own as well. I'd like for everyone to just explore what they would want to do in their journey itself and then figure out where they fit best in this journey as well.
Nice.
I would like to add a point with regard to, let's say, the commercial POV of, as Isaac was referring to, starting an architecture practice. A model that I've seen as kind of a hack to the challenges of the kind of investment that is required upfront, or the lead time that is required upfront, is that I've seen quite a lot of my contemporaries or even juniors to come together as a group. Now, it could be formalized as a company, a bunch of 5 or 10 people, or 5 of them or 10 of them work separately as separate legal proprietary entities, but then they share the same space, they share the same infrastructure to host meetings and stuff. So you cut down on a lot of overheads in that regard. And also keep in mind, one of the major challenges really early on, the first couple of years, is that maybe you don't have enough projects in the pipeline to have a couple of people full-time with you, right? So in that collaborative setup, be it through an entire legal entity or just through shared resources, when one has a large project going on or has a deadline going on, the others also chip in for that project. And then you, in a barter system, you do that for the other person as well. So I've seen this system be kind of a hack towards trying to address the incredible costs that go into the overheads and setting up a practice.
Thank you, Joy. Over to you, Tejas, for this next question. How can we embed sustainability practices and low impact materials in both our prototyping processes and long-term production as well?
Sorry, I didn't get the question. I'm sorry. How can we?
I will repeat. Yeah. How can we embed sustainability practices and low impact materials in both our prototyping process and long-term production?
Okay, in prototyping processes and long-term production. So uh, in practices, right? So I think one, if it's a practice, for example, now answering very specifically to that practice itself, my suggestion would be, and this is something that we're trying, my suggestion would be, say if you have a practice and you commit today by saying that 2% of my raw materials or my ingredients or any material that I'm buying to build whatever project, I'm going to turn to low carbon footprint. Now, very vague, very wide as a area, but commit to something and then start to look for alternatives around that. As a practice, I would say, um, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. These things exist in some way, form, but we need courage for people to take that as a starting adopter and initiate it, showcase it to so many more people that it is possible, and then eventually build it on that. Answer the second question: how do you scale this? I think that was the question, right? In terms of production, so it's again, it's a lot of parameters really come together to be able to do that. It just depends on what stage you are at, how do you want to bring that in, where do you want to utilize it as well. But commit to some part of it and then try to stick to it as much as possible. We surely need a much more evolved platform to be able to work with this so that it becomes easier. But I'm happy to connect to a lot of those guys as well to be able to initiate for anyone.
Sure, Tejas. So there's one more on similar lines. You have mentioned that you are using chemicals in various stages of the making tiles and as well as in transportation. How is your product handling the carbon footprint generated by these two factors?
Yeah, there's absolutely no way of not using anything. Otherwise, it's not long lasting as well. So that's one of the major challenges. So what we use a chemical reaction. We use only 2% catalyst out of the entire 100% right now. So that's the limit that we work with. In terms of an apple to apple comparison, we compare the LCA, the life cycle analysis of a product, which then compares what is, if you compare it with a normal product, what would that be in terms of mining, transportation, production, and shipping, and the end of life of this as well. And then you compare that with ours, overall, we would be 1/8, which is about 80% to 90% lower in its carbon emissions in a way. So you just compare it with that. And then if you're using some chemicals, you're using it. I mean, at the end of the day, it is what it is. So at least you got to be able to make a business out of this first and then be able to optimize from there.
Agreed, Tejas. Thank you for that. Snehal, this one's for you. How can we build strategic partnerships with NGOs, FPOs, and government bodies to scale our social impact projects?
I think when we are working with government, the scale is already ensured because the access and reach that a government project can give you, no other project can do that. So, working with government, I think there are a lot of systems that are already set in place. One really needs to creatively use those systems to the benefit. And I also agree that there is a lot to do with the person who heads these kind of projects. So sometimes when you have a really good person with a good vision, things really turn out well. But otherwise, as a designer, I have also experienced that a lot of these initiatives do need to come from you. So, if we were given this project where we had to work with the tribal communities, a lot of strategies or a lot of key intervention areas had to come from us also. That ideation is something that even the bureaucrats expect from you. And that is how the partnership really builds. But government projects, believe me, even initially, I was also quite unsure about that. How will it turn around? But the kind of access that you get into these communities, the kind of access you get into the system is unparalleled. So, because this is funded by government, because this is run, and there are always NGOs who are the touch points in different areas, and so that actually makes it quite an interesting collaboration. um, how do we as a practice make it scalable is once you have this kind of a project, you do need to talk about it which unfortunately, if I'm sure you would have seen that our social media presence is bare minimum. So that is something that we are now working on. Though if you can publish it, if you can make it, so this project of ours has actually won a Scotch Award, which is an award in leadership skills. It has also entered into the India Design Mark. So avenues like these need to be explored so that this kind of work and the kind of impact gets publicized, and that is how you get the ball rolling, and that is how you start getting more work also. So on similar lines, now we are working with Zilla Parishad of Amravati, where we are working with the self-help groups. These women are making some produce at home, and they look at them as a community being scalable. So we are developing a mart, we are developing a brand for these groups, for these collectives or a cooperative. But once you have this kind of a work, it is really important to really showcase it in right places so that you get the ball rolling as a design practice also. Does that answer the question, or have I left out
It
something?
does. No, no, it does. It definitely it does. Thanks, Nehal.
Thank you.
So this question's for you, Joy. So how do architects and contractors in India currently manage project documentation and collaborations? Are digital tools being used, or do informal methods like WhatsApp and Excel still dominate the industry? We see that there is a lot more happening. So if you could share your thoughts on that.
Sure. Predominantly, yes, it's done through uh, multiple platforms: WhatsApp, Excels, emails. In fact, uh, all of us have experienced that even after sending an email, we tend to call the person and tell him that, you know what, I've sent you the email. uh, um, there are tools, of course, which collate all of this information in the same place. Autodesk's Construction Cloud is one of those. But the fee to use even one license is about 1 lakh, which is pretty high, I believe, because in a construction project, there are multiple stakeholders. So it kind of, the scale of economics doesn't sit well with the Indian context. Secondly, I know for sure that forward-looking developers such as DLF do try new tech from time to time. One of the latest ones uh, they've used is something called open space, where a person with a head-mounted camera walks through the site, and then automatically 360-degree photographs are captured and reflected on your Revit plan as well as AutoCAD plan. So if a person at the site walks through the building once every week, you not only get the documentation of what's happening right now, but you also get a timeline of how the progress has happened. So it makes conversation related to these things pretty easy. And so such tools are broadly called prop tech, short for property technology. And a lot of new companies are trying to address it. Such as R Dash is a company which does the same, was incubated at Y Combinator. It's an Indian company, so of course the fees is much lower than Autodesk Construction Cloud. But then the bottom line is that unless your project is above a certain scale, these things don't make sense, because your ROI will be significantly less if the building is small in size. In other words, okay, let me put it in this way: the more number of movable parts you have in your building, the more is the possibility of something going wrong, and therefore higher is the ROI of using such paid tools. Right. So that's basically how the landscape is at this point.
Thanks, Joy. Thanks for that. In continuation, there's one other question as well. How can AI be used to personalize feedback and create adaptive feedback loops? in mental health focused wearables? Because we see that there is quite a lot happening in this field as well.
Okay, mental health wearables. Okay. Now, I haven't given it much thought, to be honest. So whatever I'm going to say is going to be at the like thinking out loud. Okay. Um, when we speak of mental health, we can look at it from two different ways. One is through psychological interviews, and the other is through biomedical terms such as brain mapping, ECG, etc., and etc. Now, AI tools that deal with brain scans and ECG readings are so specific that you don't get free versions of those. Those are really highly proprietary and belong to large pharma tech companies. However, with psychological reviews, because the output is essentially text based, here AI can be. So if you're taking interviews, if you're asking people to choose options and then you're collating, let's say, feedback or Q&A from a whole bunch of users, and then you can run it through various AI tools to derive patterns out of the answer. So let's say I've taken interviews from 50 different people. It becomes really difficult for me to drive a pattern of information out of it, right? Because our brain can't process. I mean, a good comprehensive Q&A will have at least 20 to 30 questions. So 30 questions, row, 50 different columns. Human brain can't process all of that. And this is not just speculative thinking. I am privy to this because my wife works in the market research sector, and the stalwart companies such as Gartner and Ipsos, etc., they have incorporated AI in their system as well. So I know for a fact that when she goes to conduct such studies, while she's asking questions, the AI system is listening to the conversation and automatically prompting that, you know what, this is the direction probably you can go. So the cognitive load reduces. You can imagine for in a 8-hour work day, after the first couple of interviews, even I'll start feeling tired, right? Our brain will not function at the optimized level. So if a guide is fed into an AI system, then it can prompt us with regard to what we can ask next. And then at the end, with all the result in front of us, we can feed all the files and then ask it to analyze it for us. And then some really easy prompts work really well, such as you could say that analyze it from analyze it as a consultant from EY, the kind of results you'll get, versus analyze it from a consultant from Gartner, the kind of results. So you can assign roles to the AI system and then it will answer it accordingly.
Yes, Joy. There are so many possibilities and many things happening around. Yes, that leaves us with a lot of room for thinking as well. Tejas, this one's for you. Thank you for that, Joy. Tejas, this one's for you. How can we choose vandal-resistant, weatherproof, and long-lasting materials for public space prototypes? Example, eco benches or something on those lines.
How do we choose them, is it?
How do we choose vandal-resistant, weatherproof, long-lasting materials for public space prototypes?
For public space prototypes, I think one needs to look at wear and tear as an aspect that is going to happen. So how does one go about looking at the life? It would be the first part of the question over here. Would then mean that what kind of public space is this? Like if you're looking at, say, for example, benches, the most predominant material that really is used for the benches, either some kind of metal or concrete as such right now. Then I think one needs to question it from a durability lens first. How durable do we want it to be? And then start to look at what sort of budget then one has to be able to work with it. I mean, there are lots of parameters. In a question that becomes vague about scale. From a public lens, we are working with one of the companies, architects right now, who are looking at this large scale, say, public domain-based project, but it becomes easier to look at pavers. It becomes easier to work with, to some extent, promenades and all of that. But to go into eco-friendly abrasion, like abrasion becomes a big issue, the concern in terms of life. One needs to then start to look at what is the overall degrading value of these materials that we're going to use. But to find an alternative, frankly, it doesn't exist. To be really honest with you, it doesn't exist as such at scale, and which is one part of the problem that we are facing.
Also, sadly, I believe that when it is a public space, the whole point of the trade-off between cost versus, durability, all of that is, I mean, one cannot match it. And of course, alternatives are readily available in the market, and one needs a lot of sensitization and, understanding if they have to pick wisely when it comes to such materials. So, thank you. Thank you for that, Tejas.
I personally
Yes.
feel I personally feel alternatives don't exist as much, and that's the challenge. The alternatives don't exist as much, and post that, what the major decision driver over here really becomes the entire life of it, and what is a life that we want it to be. Everything has a life, right? Everything has a life. Even concrete has a life. It's not 1,000 years for sure. So it has a life. So what is the life that we want is what I govern the decision.
Agreed. Yes, Tejas.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
I think there is a question for Snehal about artists and creators, how to approach them from a standpoint of a structured platform. So can you take that question, Sankeet?
I did not understand the structure part of it.
Yeah,
What
I'll
do you
just
mean?
paste the question.
Yeah.
Yes, right. Just give me a second, Sneha.
Yeah.
I will read that out for you. You have worked closely in tribal and rural areas where many talented artists and creators live. From your experience, how easy or challenging is it to collaborate with them for a structured platform?
Okay. So the creative side of it is very easy because artists are always eager to work. So the creative part of it is always easy. The scheduling part of it is very difficult because we need to understand actually that art is not their livelihood primarily. They do live off their fields or their forest produce. So that is art is part of their life, is part of their culture, but that is not essentially their first livelihood. So that always does not have priority. Also, a lot of seasonality is dependent. So if I were to collaborate with them through the rainy months, I don't think anybody will really work on these projects because they are quite busy with their farming activities in that point of time. So that is something that we need to take into consideration while scheduling. So that was the bigger challenge that I have faced. But creativity wise, I think absolutely no issues at all. So we had some understanding. We had some stories that we had narrated to them that this is what we want to show. And then obviously an artist also needs their own freedom that how will you put it across? And that came out very well. Scheduling was something that we needed to really keep a tab on. And for that, I think because it was a government project and the tribal offices were set up in even in the taluka levels. So we did have people who could go and actually do a little bit of follow. So, but then that is what the advantage of working with government is also because you already have access, you already have established people. The chain of people in the hierarchy is really set wonderfully. So tapping into those resources is not really very difficult. I hope
Thank you for
I've
that.
answered. Yeah.
Yes, Nehan, very much.
Yeah.
Yes. Aditya, do you want to go ahead and ask?
Thank you so much. And
You're not audible. Not very clear.
okay, just a minute.
If you could just type your question, Sankirtana will take it.
Yes, am I audible now?
You're on. Yeah,
Yes.
you are audible now. Please
So,
go ahead.
good afternoon, everyone. I was very happy to see the initiative by Ethos Foundation and be part of the mentorship session. My question is specifically to Mr. Joy, and I'm very happy to see creative minds for the similar thought which I was having as well. So, I am the founder of Architecture Playbook, and I am looking for mentorship for my tool which I'm creating. And if you allow, ma'am, can I have a screen share? Is it allowed to have screen share?
1 second, Aditya.
Yes.
Ramya, is that possible?
Yeah, if it's, you can quickly show it. Yeah.
So
Just,
that sir
yeah.
can give me inputs. What all can I add to? Because
All,
mentorship is what I'm looking for from Ethos.
okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. So this is my tool. It is a SaaS tool we are creating for architects. I hope everybody is able to see. So this is for architects, contractors, and suppliers. And it is a project management tool for all the young budding architects. So as sir mentioned, it is very costly for a young architect like me to afford even Autodesk. So this entire tool does project management, live tracking for money, as well as who is doing what work on site. Apart from that, we have also have got collaboration with wait, let me just. So apart from that, I started working on a software also where students can draft, and simultaneous when they are drafting, they will get the 3D model as well. So what students are finding difficult is they don't have junior architects with them. So they go from AutoCAD to SketchUp, from SketchUp to Lumion to final render to the client. So what we are building is, as you're drafting the model, you'll be able to see, after you're drafting the plan, you'll be able to see the model. That is what we are making the digital tool with the project management. So Joy, sir, you can give us some input. What is the current scenario or what is required in project management by architects or a digital tool like us?
All right. Okay. So, so turning drafted information into 3D is kind of aims at the concept design level or slightly thereafter schematic design stage. Whereas if you talk about project management, that's towards the more mature stage of a project life cycle, right? So first thing first is that I would say, if you how large is your team? Is that just you, couple of you, 10
Yes,
of
like
you?
we are two people, an architect and a like a software engineer. So we both
Great.
are sitting and working.
Okay. So if that is the setup or scenario, then I would say focusing on these two extreme ends of the pipeline could be a mistake because you're kind of focused on none. Secondly, I would say that the next question would be, what is actually your goal? Is it using this as your, let's say, turning it into a company, or is it your passion project? Like, what is the end game in your mind?
So the end goal is it's for the community, sir. I never thought of making it into a product or all. But for the fellow architects like me, who is struggling actually right now, to even meet the bills and do the design more effectively and strategically. So my first intent is to have a collaboration with architects, contractors, as well as suppliers first. And second, I was thinking to design this tool, the tool which will have these AI generated. So what we thought, if I'm good at making a origami model, the origami model, handmade model, can be replicated into an AI simulated full 3D rendered software, like is a digital model.
Got it.
That is my intent, that if students start with that as a handmade thing in their school, when they come to even digital spaces, they can do it and bring it on site by getting all the documentation for the client and for everyone. So
Okay.
if you
So
allow, I can
both
show
the
you.
ideas are great, but I would say pick
Yes.
one of the two, okay? Because each one of the two ideas is complex enough to take 2, 3, 4 years of your life to solve properly. So pick one of the two. Don't try and work with both of them. Now, how do you pick one of the two? Through questions and answers, through showing the demo. Show it to a whole bunch of people, and don't be shy of asking, are you going to pay for this or not? All right. Whichever of the two options gets, let's say, more positive feedback, you go ahead with that.
Sure, sir.
But
So
I would say a couple of things, that it's very, very, very difficult to change the behavior pattern of professionals. What do I mean by that? Expecting someone to use a new tool is next to impossible. So it's wiser to use some sort of an API and integrate it with existing emails, WhatsApp messages, or even notes or Excel sheets, right? So you needs to be integrated with those separate entities to make the management easier, because to be honest, it's very difficult to envisage a situation where people will solely use one tool instead of all these others that I
Yes.
just mentioned, simply because other
Yes, sir.
people are available on that platform.
So right now, like how you told, you should be open, Aditya. So my thought is also same, sir. So I'm integrating all the ideas with, I'm working with a lot of bunch of small like schools, college students, and understanding what all they can build as not just an AI model, but what all they can think of, like sun path simulator. As architects, we know in college also we learned that this is how the sun path movement would be. But when we finalize a building for the client also, have we ever showed that to the client? Or we just considered, no, client need not to even see it. And I have made those 3D models, but my contractor never see my 3D model. He will tell, ma'am, I saw only the 2D drawing and I made it. So even if there is so much potential in the digital era of where everything is AR, VR, everything is there, but the end people, the client, the contractor never get to see what architect is doing in the studio. They think only for these 2D prints, am I supposed to pay so much? And I'm like, yes, you have to pay so much, but it's so difficult to convince them. It is like that.
All
So
right.
you can
So
see a
this,
little small demo what we have done, sir.
okay.
It is there on the screen for you.
Aditya, sorry to cut you, but we are running short of
Yeah, so
time.
what you can do is
Yeah.
probably take my email address and shoot an email to me, joy@researchlab.com. All right, great. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
so
you,
before
sir.
we Thanks, Aditya. Thanks, Joy. So before you wrap up, we could look into one common question that most of our participants are asking, and we understand that it's always good to co-create and work alongside a lot of like-minded people. So what happens in case of that kind of networking, and how do we actually find the right kind of partner to work with? If I mean, this question is for three of our speakers. If you could share your thoughts, please.
Yeah, I think Tejas wanted to leave in a few minutes. He has some commitments. So Tejas can answer first and then.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes, over to you,
So
Tejas.
thank you. So the question is, how do we find a partner? Right? Is that the
How
question?
do we network, or how do we find the right kind of partner for these kind of collaborations, if any?
Well, you go out and search for them. I mean, there's no other way. I'm still looking for a partner in that case. So uh, you could be our partner as well. I mean, I don't know. So I frankly don't have an answer, and I'll wait to really hear everyone else as well because I want to learn this as well equally. So I don't know how you do that apart from just going out, seeking, trying, building a relationship, building that chemistry, and then really transforming that into a partnership. Usually, how I've done that in the past and it's worked and partly not worked is only because visions have been different, alignment over life has been very different, and it's worked for that period, not beyond. So that's, but I'm happy to learn.
Yeah. Over to you, either Sneha, Joy, whoever would like to elaborate, please.
Yeah, hi. So I quite agree with Tejas actually. So it's very organically that these kind of connections do happen. But what I can think of is that what happens as an ideator, a lot of times people are a little insecure if the idea gets passed on or if it gets taken up by somebody else very quickly. So I think that is the insecurity that we should uh, kind of keep it away. And if we openly talk to people, share our ideas or share our motivations behind or our intentions, we start finding more people. So, talking about it in real life, trying to meet more people makes a lot of difference, is what I feel. And that's how, I mean, even in our office, although it's a partnership firm, me and Rishi, we go long back even as friends. So, we've been studying together. That's how that's how Design Nonstop formed. But apart from that, we do a lot of collaborations, and some of them are short term, some of them turn out to be long term. But I think, like they just said, if the alignments happen, and and for those alignments to happen, I think there is a trust that we need to give and take. So fearlessly we should talk about our ideas and intentions and motivations, and we'll find like-minded people. Thanks.
Thanks, Nehal. Over to you, Joy.
Right. Well, something that has worked out really well for me in this regard is that I go to SPA Delhi as a visiting faculty, and you get to meet a whole lot of people over there. There were around 200 plus architects coming over as visiting faculty, and each one of them brings a different flavor to the table. So, I mean, before and after the class, it's basically a melting pot of a lot of ideas that you get to exchange with a lot of people. So that has worked really well for me. And even if people have, even though people haven't become business partner, but from one project to the other, I've found a lot of partnerships over there. So that has worked really well for me. So basically, it's a proxy for quickly meeting a whole bunch of people. What I haven't found too much useful is going to conferences, the 3 hour conferences, because you don't really get time to have a deep conversation because something or the other is happening. You basically end up exchanging business card, and that's about it. And also being shameless really works. So ping that person on LinkedIn if you
Oh,
want
I
some
have done
information.
that so many times, and that's probably why there is that network. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely be shameless.
Yes. So, like, for example, I wanted some information from how DLF works. So I figured out some posters from them on social media with regard to inviting architects to one such event. So whatever number was provided, our SVP contacted that number, requested that person to connect me to the relevant person. So basically snowball your just gotta be shameless. That's how it works.
Thank you, Joy. I understand that there is no one way to, approach this particular thing. Yeah, it's important to be present, I think, very much in what we are doing. And yeah, thank you so much for all of that. Thank you, Snehal, Joy, Tejas, for all your insights. It was a very, one session packed with so many learnings. Thank you so much. With this, I think we close the Q&A session. Over to you, Ramya.
Thank you, Sankirtana. So before closing it, I just wanted to ask all the three speakers, would it be okay if I share your email IDs with the audience? Okay.
Sure.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So so that was a very, very great wrap up. Actually, the Q&A was really added a lot of discussion into this. So I take this opportunity to thank the speakers, Snehal, Joy, and Tejas for joining us today. We truly appreciate you sharing your expertise and insights with us. And I also thank the audience for your thoughtful questions and for being such an engaged bunch. We hope the learning from this session adds value to the projects you're working on. This is only the beginning. We are going to come with more such series, including a special interaction on startups. So keep an eye out for that. In the meantime, I'd like to direct your attention to the SGG grant. If you have an idea that's feasible, scalable, and inspiring, check out the link in the chat box. Priyanka, could you please paste the link in the chat box? We'll be in touch soon with more details of our upcoming sessions and look forward to having you on board again in the coming months. Thank you once again for being here, everyone. I request the host to please end the meet.
I'd like to thank everyone. Thank you so much for inviting us as well. Also, Joy, Snail would love to interact more and learn about your work as well. And Geeta, I've been following your work since, I don't know, probably decades now.
College. I started by talking about you, Tejas. I remember college, then I remember Biomorph
Yes.
from a while ago. Yeah.
Yes.
And I remember you trying to support that. And then, of course, when this came up, I was really excited.
Yes. Thank you so much. And really looking forward to interacting more and learning on this journey.
Sure. Take care. Bye.
Okay,
Bye,
take care.
everybody.
Bye-bye,
Keep in
guys.
touch. Yeah.
Bye, everyone.